Welcome to CBS Sports HQ. Jenny Dell here on this Thursday afternoon. Today is the day we have all been waiting for. The 2025 NFL Draft. It is going down tonight in Green Bay, Wisconsin, and we have you covered here on HQ from pre-draft chatter, which we'll be doing this afternoon, to instant analysis. You are in the right place. Now, these future NFL stars waiting to hear their fate. When it comes to quarterbacks, Cam Ward expected to be the first off the board. The rest? Well, that's where the debate begins. Shedeur Sanders, Jackson Dart, Jalen Milro, and more. We've heard their strengths, their weaknesses, and in just a few hours, we will find out where their NFL journey begins. A man who knows a thing or two about the quarterback position. We have Cardale Jones here joining us now on the HQ set. We're going to discuss best fits when it comes to quarterback prospects. Let's just preface this with the fact that we expect Cam Ward to go #1 overall to the Tennessee Titans. So we're going to put that aside. Fair?
Fair enough.
Fair enough. So let's start with Shedeur Sanders, okay? We're starting with a player that has been in the news quite a bit. Good, bad, indifferent. We don't know how much of it could be smoke and mirrors, how much of it is true, but end all be all, where do you think Shedeur Sanders fits best in the NFL?
You know what, Jenny, you make a good point about all the things that's been in the news and kind of been rising his draft stock and kind of been tanking a little bit. Before, I would have said about 8 days ago, I would have said the Pittsburgh Steelers at 21, but you look at now everything that's been transpired with Derek Carr in New Orleans, I think he's a great fit for the Saints. He is one of the only two guys, him and Cam, is one of the only two guys I think can go into any organization around the league that needs a quarterback and be productive. I'm not saying putting up crazy numbers and being dominant, but being productive enough to say, hey, we can put the weapons around this young kid and let him grow to be our franchise quarterback.
And do you think that he's in a position where he could start right away?
You know what, with everything that's going on with Derek Carr down in New Orleans, if the Saints were to go this way, I think so. I mean, you have another young quarterback on the roster that they drafted a year ago, Spencer Rattler out of South Carolina, who showed some promise in the preseason and showed some sparks throughout his career so far in his young career with the Saints and a few opportunities he had due to injuries with Carr. But I think Shedeur will be an upgrade from Rattler, and he can go in day one and compete for that starting job and hopefully be the guy, and not just the Saints, but any organization decide to draft him.
All right, we're going to move on to our next guy. Up next, we have Jackson Dart. 28 wins in 3 years at Ole Miss, the most wins by a quarterback in program history over there. Some have him, few have him slotted above Shedeur. I think those are the people that are taking in that smoke and mirrors that are going on. Others have him going in the second round. Where do you believe that he should end up?
You know, this is another interesting one. Definitely a guy that's coming from the Ole Miss system. Lane Kiffin is not known to develop quarterbacks at the next level to get them pretty much ready for the NFL because of the system they be running. But if you look at a team like the Seahawks and everything they've been able to do, getting ready to have a new quarterback under center now, so he's not going to be forced to start right away. They just signed a big quarterback this past offseason who did some great things with Minnesota this past year. But he can go learn from Darnold, underneath Darnold for the next couple of years, and hopefully become a quarterback of the future. But clearly the talent is there, the tangibles is there, and he's a guy that's very intriguing to a lot of different prospects when you're talking about develop him for the future.
All right, next up, I got to ask my guy, Jalen Milro. I feel like I watched him just grow up right before my eyes when I was covering Alabama and the SEC on CBS back in the day. You've heard it many times. This really isn't the strongest quarterback class, right? That's when you look at this draft, that's what people are saying. But there is so much talent. Jalen Milro is one of those incredibly gifted, talented athletes. Where do you think he fits in what round?
You know, this is a tough one for me as well because, like you said, it's not many guys in this draft class that I'm going to hang my hat on and say, hey, you know what, you're going to draft these guys. These are instant day one starters. And Milro kind of fall in that unique situation as well because he is so dynamic with the ball in his hands as a ball carrier. So he had to find a unique system for him. I was kind of thinking kind of a system like the Ravens or a system like, you know, what they do with the Kyler Murray out in Arizona. But you look at the Browns, maybe the late first or in that second round, maybe intriguing to draft him because his former offensive coordinator is there, Tommy Rees now. So he knows how to get the performance that they need to help him be successful. And I think that will be a heck of a matchup going into conference play, divisional play with the Ravens with two of the most dynamic quarterbacks with the balls in their hand.
Tommy Rees, the OC at Bama, when he had that success within the program. Of course, Nick Saban was also there at that time.
That
definitely helps a little bit. Where do you think think that Milro needs to pick up his game? You said he might not be a day one starter. Where do you think that growth needs to come from?
You know what? Two things I always loved about him: his toughness and his deep ball accuracy. But I think the intermediate game is where he kind of struggled and found himself in a lot of problems during his career at Alabama. So I think that will be a attention of detail to focus on, kind of improve, because this is a tough league. This is a passing league, and you know these DBs are a lot better than the ones you're going to face, even in the SEC on a consistent basis. So those deep balls are rare to come by. So I think that's going to be kind of a focus for him, to really focus on the short to intermediate game, and because everything else I think he has as a leader, clearly as a deep ball threat, and clearly with the ball in his hands as a runner.
I'm interested to hear your take on this, on our next guy. It's been an interesting journey for Kyle McCord, one could say. So 1-11 as a starter in 2023 at Ohio State, 10-3 as a starter in 2024 with Syracuse. He was incredible at Cuse as well. First, your take on Kyle McCord, just in the journey that he's had, and then I want to get your fit and where you think he belongs.
Unique journey. I mean, 11-1 at Ohio State as a starter, and still, you know, decided to go elsewhere for his final year eligibility. But
you okay with that?
You know, I'm good for it. I think it worked out for everybody involved.
It did.
Kyle McCord, Will Howard, Ohio State, and Syracuse all panned out to be winners of that situation. But he's a great guy. He's a leader. You see the things that he was able to do at Syracuse, becoming a school all-time leading passer in just one season. It brings the question to say, man, why didn't Ohio State stick with this guy?
Yeah, that is a good question.
But, I think wherever he's going to get drafted in the NFL, he's going to have an opportunity to be a guy that's going to lead this team and lead an organization for a long time. But you look at the Rams and what they were able to do in extending Bradford this past offseason. Kyle is a guy who can go in and sit and learn behind him, just like he sat and learned behind C.J. Stroud. And then you saw what he did when he finally had his opportunity to shine on the big level.
So you think to the Rams potentially, and which round are you looking at here?
I'm looking at the 4th round for him. I think the Rams are still plugging some pieces in the right places when it comes to the first few rounds, but I think that's where his realistically ceiling is, the 4th round.
Okay, our last QB that we're going to talk about. A lot of questions about this guy, Tyler Shuck. 5th most pass yards in the ACC last season. Scouts very high on his upside. So I know I shouldn't say not a familiar name, but I think people are more familiar with the other names that we've discussed so far in this. So where does a guy like Shuck end up? Huge
upside, and I got my comparison for him in the NFL as in Jared Goff. When you talk about the intangibles, yeah, he wasn't as decorated coming out the draft as Goff, but I got him in the 4th round going to the Lions, and why not, you know, in a perfect world for me, a guy that I compare him to and can have some great growth underneath is Goff. Why not put him in that quarterback room with him?
Yeah. That makes sense. What do you like about his game?
You know what? He's a big, strong passer. He loves to deliver the ball from the pocket, but he has sneaky athletic ability when he gets out and kind of, he's not a guy that's going to look to break the pocket to run. He's looking to break the pocket to continue to keep his eyes downfield. That's some things that a lot of young quarterbacks don't do. When they usually break the pocket, they're looking to make a big play with their feet.
Before we let you go, you got a good draft story for us?
You know what? I do. I think when I got drafted back in 2016, feel like a million years ago rather than 10 years ago. I just remember celebrating with my family, and I just remember the biggest thing was it coming full circle with the Buffalo Bills and guy Anthony Lynn, who was the running back coordinator and run game coordinator up there at the time. And on my visit, you know, we just talked about Cleveland, and it really felt like home because he had so many things to relate to and knew so many different peoples that I knew from back home. So it was really almost like going back home, even though I'd never been to Buffalo. So that was the biggest moment of my career, and so something I'll never forget.
When you get that fit, you just know, right?
You just know.
You just know. Well, thanks for joining us here on HQ. I know you're going to be very busy today. We appreciate all your insight, especially when it comes to the QB position. And for more, you got to check out With the First Pick Pod. Today is like their Super Bowl, folks. The whole show centered around the NFL draft. You got to check it out today. After the break, we turn our attention to the backs in this year's draft. Talented players who are ready to make an impact on day one. That is next on HQ.